Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jessie Carpentier Marama. I think we can probably get started. We might still be waiting on. Oh, no, Jess is on. Jess, did you have anything or Jessica, did you have anything you wanted to say before Liz gets started?
No, I don't think so. Other than you guys probably saw, we're gonna start doing office hours on Friday. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's really it.
Yes, everybody should have received an invite for the optional Friday office hour at 1 p.m. And we'll be doing those for the rest of the month every Friday. So feel free to drop in during that hour if you have any questions. But it is definitely optional and intended for anybody who just needs some additional assistance outside of these sessions. So yeah, without further ado, I think Liz, you can get started. Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit about
Sure.
where you're coming from? Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Jesse and Jessica. My name is Liz. I missed making an introduction at the first session because I was 5 minutes late. My name is Liz. I work for Pennsylvania DEP. I have been using R not right when I started with PADEP, but at least now for 2 years. I am not an expert, so I did review the code for today, and so hopefully things goes relatively smoothly. And I know that there will be some people helping in the chat to answer questions. So I'm pretty much not going to pay any attention to the chat. So if you have a burning question that you want answered right away by me, just please use the raise your hand function or come off mute and ask. So I think that's about it. I thought I would start by introducing today's session and then ask for 2 volunteers. If people are feeling brave and want to volunteer, let me know. I'm going to give you some time to think about it before you decide. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I want to show Min's lesson plan. Go ahead and share my whole screen. Screen. Okay, so we're going to be talking about tidying data, one of my favorite subjects. So we're talking about table data. So we know columns and rows, and each row is an observational unit. And so Min here has an example of what is tidy data, and that basically means that each row is an observation. The values are all there. They're labeled in a relatively clear way. And she has an example of what she considers to be a messy data set because you've got minimum and maximum temperatures in the same row. I think in some ways it depends how your brain works, whether you consider this messy or not. But ensuring that the data that you're working with are in the right format and are workable in R. We're going to go through 3 different functions today and then 3 different additional functions on Thursday. So the first 3 are select, arrange, and mutate. And then we'll go through filter and summarize and group by on Thursday. So I thought I would just share some of the R code that I reviewed for this. So today's session, if you want to go ahead, I would just load all of the packages that should be installed so far. So I like to use the call to tidyverse instead of just loading DPLYR or dplyr. I just load the whole tidyverse package. So we can go ahead and do that. And I think I already had it loaded, so you're not going to see sort of the feedback that says which packages have been loaded. The janitor package, data table, library read Excel, and then open XLSX. And actually, let me, so that it's more clear, let me just clear this so that we start from scratch. I'm going to reload. Oh, that didn't do it. Well, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Okay, so using the function head. So typically, if you just call the function head on a data frame, so in this case, air quality, what you're going to see is the first 6 rows printed down in the console. And so what Min likes to do is actually add in, she likes to see 10 rows of data, and you could print more than 10 rows. So that's just an example of using the function head on the data frame air quality. And then that number 10 is the next argument, which means showing the number of rows. And you can go ahead and press Control Enter, and you're going to see your different columns. All right. So, I just want to mention at this step, you can also clean up these names. And I noticed that in the previous exercises, you were asked to install the janitor package, and that's just very helpful for cleaning up the names. And what I mean by that is making everything lowercase with a consistent spacing and using the underscore. And so let me just, clean names, and then you can type the data frame within the function parentheses, and then Control Enter for that. If I scroll up, back up to it printed everything, you can see that it's now changed the column names all lowercase. And this can be really helpful, especially for people who are new to using R and get frustrated by the sort of the very literal way R interprets what you type in. So I know you've probably already experienced that, where if it's uppercase and you accidentally type in lowercase, then all of your code doesn't work. This is a way to kind of clean up those names and make them consistent so that you don't have to remember necessarily how they're formatted for each column name. All right. So at this point, I guess I'm going to ask, I'm going to quickly review last session's exercises, unless you guys have already covered those.
I don't think we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last session's exercises were to install 2 packages, data table and janitor. And I have dependencies equal true, which means that any packages that package depends on to work will also be installed at the same time. So this would be the code you would need to enter to install those. And I will go ahead and actually copy paste that and put that in the chat, just in case you didn't get those installed. And I don't mind sharing the code file either. Go. Okay, and then the next was to read in a data file. So this is a personal preference. You don't have to do it this way, but I prefer to have the data file defined on a separate line so that if I change the data file name, I can just change it once in this line. You can do it differently. So for example, when you go to type in read_delim, what you could do is just directly type the file extension ... and the rest of your arguments. But I actually prefer to put the data file on a separate line. And so then the next step would be is to save it as something so that you can work with it in the future. So I have it labeled as air_data, and then the function is read_delimited. And so this is for any type of delimited file. So it could be, I mean, technically, I mean, you could do comma separated files, but there's a read_CSV function, so you don't need to do that. This is the most common way that I put pipe delimited files into R. So then I have the data file is the first thing. So that's the object that I've defined as that text file above. I want to skip the first line because it's always a good idea to check what your data file looks like. And so the first line is, just a sentence, and I don't want to put that into R. So I'm going to skip that line, and then I define the delimiter as a pipe. So I go ahead and run that. The data file wasn't found because I didn't define it. So I have to define it first, and then read the data in. And the nice thing about this output is that it will tell you the structure of your data when you're inputting it into R. So CHR is character, so site, date, and units, and then double or DBL is a number. So it's automatically identified all of those as numbers. And then the last one is time, and it's identified it as a date time. And so this gives you an idea before you start changing anything with the data set, what R sees initially. And then you may need to make some changes. For instance, your date column right here, you may want that recognized as a date. And we'll get to that step about how you do that in R. Okay, the third exercise was to save the data as a plain text file, with each row separated by the pipe, and then to write that air data file to an Excel file. Now, I had trouble using some of these Excel functions, and I went on Stack Overflow and found out a lot of other people have trouble. When I export something for someone who uses Excel, I typically export it as a CSV file because then they can just open it in Excel and it's not a big deal. So that's typically what I do. For write a pipe delimited file, you use write_delim. You tell it what the data set is or the data frame, which is air data, and then you type in what you want the file named as, and you want to make sure that you include the file extension. So for pipe delimited, that's typically a text file, so .txt, and then delimited by the pipe again. And so you can go ahead and write that file. And the way to, I guess, really demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and delete this file that I did before class. Go ahead and call the right to delimit the file, and then you can see that I now have the delimited file in my project folder. Okay, and then write Excel _CSV, same sort of thing. You put in the data frame that you want written to a file, and then you put in the file name. And let me go ahead and delete this just to demonstrate that it actually does work. Okay, so, and then it provides the CSV file right here. So those are the exercises from last week. And I'm planning on Thursday reviewing the exercises from today if we run out of time. And if we don't finish everything for today, we'll figure out how to finish everything for Thursday. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point. And who would like to go over to be a volunteer to code? I just need 2 volunteers. You can type in the chat if you volunteer, or if I don't have any volunteers, then you're going to have to watch me code. And that might not be as helpful.
Yeah, can we get just 2 people? I see there's 54 of you here. Oh,
Okay,
someone.
Peter's volunteered.
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Peter.
Thank you, Peter. So let's get started with Peter. Peter, if you want to go ahead and share your screen or share your our studio window. Excellent. Let's go ahead and open a script file. I don't like remembering what all the doodad buttons are. So if you go up to File and, yep, New File and our script. And for those of you who like shortcuts, it's Control-Shift-N. So let's go ahead and load some packages. So let's type in let's not do it in the console, let's do it in the script file where you are. Library is the function to call a package, and then tidyverse. And then on the next line, let's type library and then janitor. Okay, and let's start there. So if you move your cursor back up to line 1 and press Control-Enter. Yep, you got it. And then janitor. Yep. And we've got janitor loaded. Okay, we'll see if we need anything else. So we're going to go and work with the select function first. So the select function is in the tidyverse. It's in the actual package is dplyr, dplyr. So let's we're going to work with the air quality data set that is preloaded in R. It's one of the example data sets that's in R. I believe IRIS, the IRIS data set is really popular to demonstrate examples. If you Google stuff online, empty cars is also another one that's used for examples on how to use functions. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in select. That's our function. And then the first thing we need to do is type in the name of our data set or data frame. So yeah, air quality. Yep, you got it. I can go faster if people want me to go faster. So you can let me know. I can see the chat now, so you can let me know. Then comma. And then you can just write in the columns. Okay, slow is fine, same pace. Okay, so then you can write in the columns that you would like. So in this case, what I find helpful is, I'm sorry this is annoying, Peter, but if you actually go outside of that parenthesis and go to a new line, yeah, yep, type in STR, short for structure, and then a parenthesis, yep, and type in, yep, you got it, Control Enter. Let's take a look at our data set. This is usually the first thing I do. Okay, so you've got how the column names are formatted, and then you've got the column types. So integer is another way that R will indicate a number. So DBL, INT, and then number is also one. Okay, so Peter, if you would go back up to line 3 after that comma where we were before, and let's go ahead and select, as Min says, the ozone column month and day. So you just want to make sure you don't need parentheses. I mean, quotations. Yep, you got it. Yep, exactly right. And then Control Enter. Okay, and so then you can see up here, yep, you got it, that you've cut out some columns. So by not listing them, you're basically leaving them off the list. So this can be really useful, for instance, if you're getting data out of AQS and you don't want all those columns. Like, you're going to translate those state, county, and site codes into a site name, and then you just want to drop out those AQS site, county, and state. This is a way to do that, is with the select function. So it can be really useful for tidying data sets, particularly if you're a fan of keeping your columns more trimmed down, or if you're sharing it with someone who maybe you don't want them to get lost in 30 different columns. You just want to show them the top 10 or something like that. Okay, so the next is selecting a chunk of columns. So Peter, if you would type in select again. Yep, and then our data frame, which is air quality. And then to type in a section of columns, you're going to type in C with the parentheses. So this is kind of a way to generate a grouping, and then you're going to select from ozone to temperature. So you want all those columns. So ozone, and then, yep, you got it. And then temp, yep. And Control Enter. And Peter's scrolling up so we can see. And there you go. We've gotten the first 4 columns between ozone and temperature. So this is a good shorthand way of selecting a chunk of columns if they are conveniently all located next to each other. Okay, so I guess the next thing Min has us doing is column names, which is another helpful way. So instead of doing structure, say you just want the column names, that's what you could use. So Peter, if you would type in a COL names. Yep, you got it. And one of the ways R can be, or RStudio can be very helpful, is it gives you the, hey, do you mean this? Anyway, and yes, Peter, you're right, air quality. Yep, and Control Enter. So then it gives you the column names just in one line. So if you don't really care what the structure of the data is at this point, and you just want the column names, you can do that. So the next thing is we're going to drop wind speed. We don't want wind speed. And so the way to drop a column is to do the same thing, select, and then with the data frame of interest, so air quality, and then the minus sign is how you drop a column, just as single column. Yeah. And then wind is a column. Sorry, Peter. Yep, you got it. Yep. And so as Peter shows, we've dropped the wind column, but we've kept all the other columns. Okay. So if you want to drop multiple columns that are all in a series, the code for that is a little bit different. So we can type it in the wrong way and then see why we have to type it in the way Min has. So let's go ahead and type in select, please, Peter, and air quality. This gets very repetitive, but this is useful. Okay, so let's say we're like, well, I'm just going to type in the minus sign. So let's just type in the minus sign and then say solar.r. So that column name, yeah, you got it. And then the double dot colon, sorry, the colon, and then temp. And let's control enter. Yeah, so R doesn't like that. It's not, go ahead and scroll up, Peter. We got the warning message, but you know, yeah. So it did not drop what we wanted it to drop at all. So not the best way to write this for R. So okay, next line, Peter. Let's write it in the way we should. So select, and then air quality. Okay, and then a minus sign, and then we want to create that grouping. So C and the parenthesis. And then the same thing that we had above, the solar.r colon temp. Yeah, go ahead, Peter. Okay, and we got what we want, what we wanted. Sorry, as soon as I get code brain, my English grammar kind of goes out the window. Okay, so that is the select function. Min also points out that what can be handy about select is you can reorder your columns at the same time. So she has that example next, and that can be very useful. So Peter, we're begging your patience to again write select and air quality. This would be so much easier once we cover the pipe operator next session. Comma, and then we want the month and the day. So we'll type in month and day columns. Yep. And then everything, comma after day. And then the word everything with a parenthesis. A left parenthesis after everything, because it's a function. Yeah, so Shift 9 on your keyboard. Yep, exactly. And if you would press Control Enter, sorry, that was not clear. Okay. So then this reordered the month and the day before ozone, and then everything else after month and day. So that's a way, especially if you've created a column, which we will cover in mutate, and that column's been added on the end of the data frame, but you want it at the beginning of the data frame. This is a way to say, I want to reorder this, and you can use the word select and drop columns at the same time if you need to. Okay. So thank you very much, Peter. next volunteer, I believe, is I should switch to the next volunteer. Do we have another volunteer?
Looks like we got one.
Oh, excellent. Greg.
Okay, let me try to share my screen here real quick.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. I'm sorry. Thank you, Peter, for typing all that code over and over and over again.
Okay, is my screen coming through? It's saying it's sharing it, but I don't know
Yes.
if it is. Okay, perfect.
Yes, it is. Okay. Oh, I love your notes. All right. So I like to do the same thing. So we're going to start with 2.2, which is the function, or sometimes people think of them as verbs. If you want to think about R as a language. Anyway, arrange is what we're going to cover next. And that's actually how to reorder the way things appear in the columns. And so I think the easiest way to do this is just to go through the examples. So Greg, if you would type in arrange into your script file, yeah. And parentheses, yes. And then air quality, our data set we keep working with. And then we're going to arrange it by our ozone values. So if you would type in ozone, that's a capital O, yep, Z-O-N-E, yeah. And control enter, please. Okay. There we go. Okay, so it arranged the ozone values from lowest to highest. That's usually not what we're interested in. So the next step is to actually add the function called descending, so DESC. So it's up to you, Greg. You can modify the code above, or you can retype arrange and then air quality. And then the DESC has to go around the ozone column because you're only applying it to a specific column, I should say. Yep, you got it. Control enter. Okay. Yep, and so boy, is that a whopper. So yeah, now it is arranged by the highest values. So that can be particularly useful, you know, when you're, you know, first looking at a data set. All right, so the next verb or function is mutate. I use mutate all the time. I mean, I use select and arrange too, but mutate is especially handy, especially when doing something like a unit conversion, like you've got it in ppm, but you want it in ppb. Mutate can be very helpful. Also, when you want to change a column, like say you inputted the data and the column type, R interpreted the column type as a character. And you don't want it recognized as character or text. You want it recognized as, say, a date or a date time. Mutate can be extremely helpful. So, Greg, let's go with the first example. So this is where when you change a data set, and what we could have been doing from the beginning is saving it as a new object. So Greg, if you would just write in air quality and then in your script file, please, and then underscore, let's just say new. And then let's do the assignment operator. So the shorthand for that is Alt minus. If you press, oh, you got it. And then mutate is our function. And then we'll define our data set as air quality, comma, And then we want to create a new column. So the new column name is city, all lowercase, equal to, and then we give it a value in this case. Greg, you might want to, is that an equal sign or is that a hyphen after city?
It's an equal sign.
Okay, my vision's just not so great. Then you can type in the words New York for a city. Okay, and control enter. Okay, so we don't see it because we've assigned it to an object. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So Greg, if you would, on the next line, if you would type in the word glimpse, that's the function glimpse. I believe that was in session 1 or 2. Yep. And then air quality underscore new. And yep, exactly. Okay, so this gives us an idea of what it looks like now, and you can see city is the last column in the console at the bottom of Greg's screen, and it says New York. So we did it. So that's great. All right, so we can do more, create new columns in the same line. So Greg, actually, if you go up to city equals New York and put a comma before that parenthesis and hit enter. Yep, new line. And then let's say year equals 1973. And you don't need this in quotations because it's a number. And go ahead and hit control enter. And then go ahead and run glimpse again. So control enter. And we've got the year entered. All right. The next example, Min has, this can be a very useful function if you have messy data. So let's say we had New York was entered by a bunch of different people, and some people entered it as uppercase, some people entered it lowercase. The way to do this is actually we can go, no, you're right, Greg. We need to start on line 34. Let's just type in air quality underscore lower. We'll just to create a new object. Yeah. Yeah, and then let's say mutate. Yeah. And then let's call air quality new, where we have our New York entered in, comma, and then let's say city for the column equals the function to lower, TOLOWER, parentheses, and then put city. So that's identifying which column you want all it to become lowercase. And go ahead and control enter. And then let's type in glimpse. Yep. And air quality lower. Yep. I do that all the time. Yep. Okay. And everything is now lowercase in the city column. All right. Our last example. So I did prepare for the exercises. So if we have time, we can review some of those. So add calculated columns. So this can be very useful for unit conversions. So let's go ahead and just use air quality as Min has written in. Yep. And assign it. We can assign it. That's fine. Yep. And then mutate is, again, the function. and air quality as the data frame or data set. Yep, just the plain Jane air quality. Okay, and then I find it easiest to actually, when I go back to read my code, to press enter. And then type the column name, which is uppercase WIND underscore M.S. Yeah, equals. So that's your new column name, okay? And then equals wind, uppercase W, yep, times, yep, 0.447. And control enter. Great. And then if you would call glimpse again, thank you. All right. And then we have the conversion as the last column in the data frame. All right. So thank you very much, Greg, for demonstrating. I'm going to take a break for questions, and then I guess we could review some of the exercises. Yes, I'm sorry, Yagna, is that correct?
Yes, yes. I'm getting
Okay.
error with the glimpse function. Every time I run it, let me share my screen. So I get like this errors.
So it worked?
It looks like the air quality lower did not run because it looks like Glimpse worked
Yeah.
above. So I think
Yeah.
you need to rerun your air quality under, because it looks like there is, you put a parenthesis instead of the underscore for air quality
Yeah.
lower. So make sure that's an underscore, not a parenthesis. And then, because that's what happened. It's not the function that's not working. It's the new data set you defined.
Yeah.
Is not the correct name. So just make sure.
And yeah, and I do that a lot where because I rename things as I change. And so what happens is that I forget a letter when I call Glimpse or something, and then it doesn't work. But parenthesis, I don't think it's going to be recognized, is not an acceptable thing for R. An underscore is pretty safe. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did I make an error again?
It was line 18, but it looks better now. Air quality underscore lower. Rerun line 18, and then
Yep.
and then if you just
go ahead and call Glimpse. Actually, you need to delete the second lower in your call to Glimpse. It should just be air quality lower. Yeah. Yep, and call Glimpse again. Control enter.
Yes.
There you
Thank
go.
you. All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
There were a couple of questions in the chat that I kind of wanted to bring into the discussion. Nicole asked if it was easy to arrange by more than one column, and I started.
Yes. Hold on.
Yeah.
So I have an example of that. I wanted to prepare that as a demonstration. So let me go ahead, share. Okay. Let's go into here. Did I move it? Select. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, so this is one of the exercises from today. So I'm going to go ahead and we can talk about these later. I just want to get make sure I have these in. Okay, so we've got this ozone data set. So let me okay. So we have this ozone data set. And one of the examples is to order it by ozone and then by temperature. So let's go ahead and look at that. So the ozone column, the ozone and the temperature columns are right here. Okay. So let's go ahead, that code. All right. And then let's glimpse it. So what happens here is it's ordered by the first column that you request. And then it's sort of where you can see where these 1 values are. It will order the next column, but it's controlled by the first column that you order. And I thought one example would also be to show like year, month, and day, and then ordering by year, month, day, and hour. But this data set's a little wonky, and so this actually isn't a good example, but this one is. So you can get an idea of how that ordering is controlled by R. Jess, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just actually wasn't sure of the answer to this question. So was looking for you or someone else to give the answer. So that worked out.
Okay. All right. And then any other questions that people had?
So someone asked if it would be possible to continue with Greg's notes. I'm not sure what exactly you meant. Oh, was this when we switched? Then maybe this is when we switched presenters.
Okay.
But
well,
if I'm not understanding your question right, Randy, please feel free to take yourself off mute and you can ask us.
I don't know.
Hey,
what... Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if we could add notes before we do a function, just so that like when I look back at the code, I know what each function is doing.
Yeah. So as you're typing things in, so this is actually these are my notes as I was going along and working through this. So I would encourage people, like, as we're talking through, you know, what these functions do and running the code, to type in notes yourself. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I think maybe we could slow down a little bit and then just give us a little bit of time to jot down those notes, because I think I'm scrambling over here trying to get the proper code down while trying to take notes at the same time.
I am also willing to share my script file afterwards. That was part of the reason why I did this, was that if people felt like they missed something, they could go back and read my notes along with the code to review what was actually done. So next time I can try and go a little bit slower. We might not be able to cover the exercises though. And so that would be something to do the next time, I guess.
Yeah, and we are also gonna hold, like we mentioned at the beginning, we're gonna start holding office hours that are not required, just you know, if you're interested and have questions, that at least one of the TAs should be at each one. I know most of us are gonna try to make it if we can. So that is also another place that we could talk about exercises or other things.
Okay, and then someone asked, can you show us the code for exercise 2 with the top 10 ozone? And yes, I can do that. I think the other thing to remember is there's so many ways to do this in R. No one answer is actually the answer. I mean, there are ways where you do something and the function does not work as expected, and so that's not good. But there are multiple different ways to do things. So let me go ahead and where was my top 10? Sorry. Exercise 1, ordered by hour. Oh yeah, okay. So let me make this easier. So this exercise was to select the month, day, and ozone columns. And I decided I wanted to do this. So this is what I did, is I decided to go through and select the columns I wanted and deselect the columns I didn't want. So let me first, before I do that, let me show Glimpse ozone data. Clean, just to remind everybody what it looked like. Okay. So I decided that I wanted site, date, hour, ozone, and the temperature in Fahrenheit. But I wanted to drop the state code, the county code, the site number, lat long, time, and parameter. I just decided to drop all of those. And I didn't really care about the units. I knew what the units were, and I just wanted the year and the day. And so that's what all of this is. So this keeps the first set of columns. This is another way to drop a set of columns, is to put the negative sign and then parentheses and then state code to parameter. Keep year through day and then drop the units. So let me go ahead and run this code and then we can take a look at it. So this just reduced the number of columns down to what I wanted to work with for the exercise. And then the next part was, if you want to find the top 10 values of ozone, my strategy was using the functions that I believe you've been introduced to, was to use a range and to arrange ozone in descending. And then the way I decided to do it was to use the heading function and call the top 10. So let me go ahead and run this. So you can view the whole data set this way. Instead of using Glimpse, you can view the whole data set. Now, if the data set's huge, like 2 million rows, view it's going to take too long, and Glimpse is a much more efficient way of handling it. So this has your ozone values ordered. The other handy thing in R is that RStudio, sorry, not just base R, RStudio, is that if you call view, you can also do this. And it will order things for you. So you don't necessarily have to call it, and you can read what the top 10 values are. But if you just wanted to print, say, the top 10 to see what it was in the console, you could call the heading function. And there are other ways to do this, but this is just one using what you have.
Thanks for going over that, Liz.
Yeah, no problem.
And if you don't mind posting the script after this, your script, you said you were willing to share it. If you don't mind just uploading it in our summer training teams folder, under general, and week 2-1 is a green folder. So that's where our script will be for everyone who wanted the notes.
Okay, general, and then under week 2-1. Okay.
Okay.
Looks like Ed has a question. Or a comment. Hi, Ed. You're muted. Or did you accidentally hit the raise hand? I do that too sometimes. Oh, no question. Okay. Yeah, so Allison typed in an alternate way that you can designate a new column. That's definitely one way to do it. When we get to the pipe operator, mutate is very easy to use with the pipe operator. Keith mentions, yes, you can select column numbers if you don't know the column names, but you know, like, say, for instance, like 1 through 23, those first 23 columns are what you want. That's what you can type in. So it would be 1:23. View air quality. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. The other day I tried that. I always type in lowercase, but other people were saying to type in the first capitalized. And see, both work for me. I don't know what I have loaded in the background. If it's a tidyverse thing.
Yeah, we might have to help Jordana offline. I remember they were having problems last week. So not quite sure if that's related.
Yeah.
So Jordana, if you want to email one of us, or we can reach out to you and we can try to help you with that issue offline, because it sounds like we would need to like see your screen and everything. Yeah, so I guess if nobody has any questions, I personally have a meeting to jump on at 2, but I guess if everyone is good to go, then I think we're good.
Yeah, I can hang out for an extra 5-10 minutes if people have questions. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks. And I'll be putting like what Min does every week, a Q&A and feedback for this session. So you guys can post your questions or concerns or whatever. Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye, everybody.